Across all spiritual traditions, from the Vedic seers of India to the mystics of Greece and the sages of the East, awakening has never been described as an act of acquisition. It is not about becoming something more, but about seeing through the illusions that veil what already is. The awakened do not add knowledge, power, or identity. They shed them. They realize that enlightenment is not a future state, but the natural condition of consciousness once it is no longer entangled in the false. In this exploration, we will uncover 7 illusions, 7 constructs of mind and perception, that the spiritually awakened transcend, according to the timeless wisdom of the ancients. Transcending the illusion of separation. At the root of all suffering lies the belief that we are separate, that I exist apart from the universe, from nature, from God. The awakened recognize this as the first and deepest illusion. The Upanishads declare, there is no other. Everything we call subject and object, inner and outer, is consciousness perceiving itself through different lenses. The Gnostics, too, saw ignorance, agnosia, as the veil of duality that blinds the soul. When this illusion dissolves, love ceases to be an emotion and becomes the natural state of being. The mystic no longer says, I love the world, but realizes, I am the world, loving itself through me. Transcending the illusion of time. Ancient wisdom teaches that time is not an absolute reality, but a construct of perception. The Buddha called it Maya, the moving shadow of the eternal now. In truth, consciousness exists only in this timeless presence. Past and future are mental projections, memory and imagination, while the now is the only dimension that is ever real. The awakened experience reality not as a sequence of events, but as a living totality, unfolding in every moment. This transcendence of time frees the soul from regret and anticipation. Eternity is not an infinite duration. It is the realization that the eternal has always been here. Transcending the illusion of the ego. Perhaps the most personal illusion is the ego, the sense of a separate I that claims ownership of thought and action. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that the wise see themselves not as the doer, but as the witness of all doing. The ego is not an enemy to be destroyed, but a mask to be seen through. When the mask drops, consciousness reveals itself as impersonal awareness, infinite and unbound. Ancient mystics compared the ego to a wave, forgetting it is the ocean. The awakened one remembers, and in that remembrance, fear, pride, and isolation dissolve into the vast stillness of the self, transcending the illusion of possession. The ancient Stoics, Buddhists, and Vedic sages all taught that nothing can truly be owned. All things, wealth, relationships, even the body, are temporary forms through which consciousness experiences itself. The awakened no longer cling to possession because they have realized the deeper abundance of being itself. As the Tao Te Ching teaches, when you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. This is not detachment born of denial, but the peace of knowing that all things flow in and out of awareness, as waves flow in and out of the sea. The wise live in the world, but are no longer possessed by it. Transcending the illusion of death. The fear of death is perhaps the greatest illusion binding consciousness. The ancients saw death not as an end, but a transition of form, the wave returning to the ocean. In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, death is described as awakening from a dream. In the Katha Upanishad, Yama, the Lord of Death, teaches that the self is unborn and undying. The awakened realize they are not the body that perishes, but the awareness in which birth and death appear. To transcend death is to see that life never began, and therefore can never end. Immortality is not duration. It is presence beyond the temporal. Transcending the illusion of knowledge. While the world prizes accumulation of knowledge, ancient wisdom calls for unlearning. Lao Tzu wrote, "In pursuit of knowledge, something is gained every day. In pursuit of Tao, something is lost every day." The awakened recognize that conceptual knowledge cannot grasp the infinite. True wisdom arises in the silence beyond thought, where knowing and being are one. Socrates' confession, "I know that I know nothing," was not ignorance but humility before the boundless mystery of existence. The spiritually awakened transcend the compulsion to define, to control, to categorize, and enter into direct knowing, where truth is lived rather than understood. Transcending the illusion of good and evil. At the highest level of awareness, even the moral opposites of good and evil dissolve. This is not moral indifference, but a recognition that all opposites belong to a higher unity. The Taoists symbolized this as yin and yang, light and shadow interdependent, flowing within the same circle. The Gnostics called this the reconciliation of the pairs of opposites, the Christian mystics the coincidence of contraries. In this state, judgment gives way to understanding. The awakened see that what we call evil is ignorance seeking light, and what we call good is the return of awareness to its source. Both serve the same end, the evolution of consciousness toward unity. To transcend these 7 illusions, separation, time, ego, possession, death, knowledge, and duality, is to awaken from the dream of limitation. Ancient wisdom does not offer escape from the world, but clarity within it, to live as consciousness, knowing itself through form. The spiritually awakened walk among us not as ascetics detached from life, but as beings who have seen through its illusions and found freedom in awareness. They remind us that enlightenment is not a distant goal, but the timeless recognition of what has always been true, that all things arise, unfold, and dissolve within the one boundless consciousness that we already are. Thanks for watching, liking, and subscribing. We would love to read your thoughts in the comments below, and remember, if you want to expand on this topic, make sure to check out the links in the description for curated and recommended literature with deeper information. Please, never stop learning. It is our duty as spiritual beings to keep engaging in this type of conversations to reach better answers. Thank you so much for being here.